And hello, everybody. Welcome back. This time we are integration management. Again, by review, the PMBOK Guide Edition 7. The link is posted on the Moodle page. Each week I've included it. These slides are Edition 6. Edition 6 and 7 are nearly identical. They have exactly the same terms, understanding, content, right? PMBOK Edition 7 has just reorganized them and gone away from the direct inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs, but the information is still there. The terms still need to be known, the concepts applied, and PMBOK 7 added just a few other concepts, which I've included as terms for you to look up in this week's work. That's on the Moodle site, week 9. So that's for you to do. These slides are shorthand. The longer version is also attached each week in case you want that learning. So if you plan to fail, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. Benjamin Franklin. Absolutely true. And this is what you do in integration management. Integration management is that one area that the project manager is the expert. You are the integration manager. In fact, if we don't call you a project manager, we could call you an integration manager. That would be sufficient and effective. We could also call you a change manager. Change manager, project manager, integration manager, almost synonymous, right? So these are some of the things that we are going to cover this week, but this is a shorthand course. Now we have seen this slide many times. Again, the yellow boxes are what you were doing as the project manager, and all the other processes around it you would want to consider. But notice integration. That's the yellow box. That's who you are. That's what you do as the project manager. So how important is developing a project management plan? Well, it's essential because it allows you to integrate all these other processes and plans from your SMEs so that you can manage the plan. How important is direct and manage project work and manage project knowledge? It's essential because it's how you integrate the rest of the subject matter experts that are executing your deliverable. How important is monitoring and controlling project work and performing integrated change control? That's what you lead. It's what you do. Well, it's essential to managing all your subject matter experts who are running these other processes to build your project. And then, of course, you alone are solely responsible in integration for closing out the project. Okay? So these are the times initiating, planning, executing, where you have processes. You will build the charter for the sponsor with the small team that you've already been assigned. You will lead developing the project management plan, this overall plan that your subject matter experts will continue to feed you updates. You have to make sure it's balanced and integrated. You will direct and manage the execution of the work. And meanwhile, you are collecting project knowledge. You're going to make sure people on your team get that knowledge shared. In the PMO, if you have one, get it shared. If you just have other project managers, you make sure that team gets the knowledge. Of course, you are going to monitor and control the project. You're going to track the data that you collected in integration up here, and you are going to look for gaps. So you have this plan data versus your execution data, and here you're looking for gaps. And if you have a gap, you'd do a change request and it would go to integrated change control. That's a summary end-to-end of what you are doing to control your project throughout. Okay? Now, you are wholly responsible, nobody else. Now, when we develop the project charter, this is where the project starts. Remember, the business documents should be given to you. That's the business case, which tells you the need for the project. And then the benefits management plan tells you your return on investment, your net present value, your cost benefit analysis. You're going to take those and build and narrow it down. So you have this wide scope here. And this funnel is meant to show that you're narrowing down the scope while remaining aligned with the business documents, with the strategic vision of the company. You remained aligned with that, but you narrow down the focus in the charter. The charter has several key purposes for you. One is that it gives you authority, very essential. That will be on any test. Authority as a project manager. And two, it allows you to use company resources. The charter is always considered high level. This would be an example of a charter, right? You don't have to have all these items. You don't have to have any, or you could add extra items, right? Notice those signature blocks for the sponsor or sponsors. There could be more than one, and a project manager. We talked about all these terms already. It's one reason I leave this lesson till the last one. ROM, as you call, is rough order of magnitude budget. Remember, it's not a solid budget. It's your best guess. It's high level. Okay. So so in developing the project management plan, which is my next process, so I build the charter with and for my sponsor, and we all sign it, and that has narrowed. Now the project management plan is going to narrow down further and still remain aligned with the business documents, the charter. Now I'm going to build this detailed plan. Remember, my charter was high level. My plan now is detailed. And this becomes how you control the planning process. Remember this slide. This is you. And you have all of this input coming in that you have to balance and arrange and order. When you're done with that and you think you have a great project plan, it becomes law for you. Once you have a project plan, you cannot change it without going through integrated change control. So once the sponsor signs it and you sign it, go ahead and have a kickoff meeting. Tell everybody about it. Let's get going. When you are done with your project management plan, you will have baselines. There are always three baselines: a scope baseline, schedule baseline, and cost baseline. These are one measuring tool for success. The PMBOK Guide Edition 7 has added an additional baseline called milestone baselines, but they do not incorporate it into this triple constraint iron triangle concept. When I can consider scope baseline by itself, schedule by itself, or cost. But if I consider all three together, I call that the performance measurement baseline. It's a term for all three considered together. Okay. Now, the third process is directing and managing project work. So now that I have the plan done, this detailed plan, I got to execute it, and I'm building it. Hence my clown from the movie It. It was just meant to be tongue-in-cheek. I'm building it, my unique deliverable, right? What is a project? By definition, unique and time-bound. This is the unique thing that I'm building. So notice on the right that I've still continued that alignment. I started with the business documents, right? I aligned it further with the charter, and I developed this detailed project plan. All of it remains aligned, and now I have a very detailed approach to building what we all agree is this unique deliverable. So I will want to consider any approved change requests. When I go to integrated change control, if there's an approved change, it comes right back into this process so that I can continue building it to make it a stable, reliable deliverable in the end. No, I will also have to consider, what is my project management information system? What is my information system that I get information out and I collect information from the team? Is it a phone? Is it an Excel spreadsheet? Is it a SharePoint? Is it a grease board? Is it a chalkboard? Is it pen and paper? You decide. I'm not telling you how to do it. But you need to consider a PIMIS, Project Management Information System. Now, your output of direct and managed project work is it. It's called a deliverable. And your output is data. I've now collected data. So remember, in planning, we had data we anticipate. Now we have actual data. We're going to compare the two, and if they're different, we want to do a change request. Now, while I'm building it, I'm collecting knowledge. right? And this knowledge is essential to the company's success. So I want to make sure I tell people about it. Realize knowledge can take two forms. It can be explicit, right? That's fact-based knowledge, like lessons learned. But notice there's also tacit knowledge, right? Things that are hard to describe, but it will give context. Like if I asked you, what's a family? Right now, we all get it. But once we start to talk about it, it would take various forms. So it gives us context to the conversation family without really defining what a family is, right? So that's tacit knowledge. Look for that. It's there. And here's a one-page slide showing just some examples of tacit and explicit knowledge for your own consideration. Pause the slide, review it. It's good stuff and part of your responsibility to share that with your team, other project managers, your corporate leadership, the PMO, etc. Now, I mentioned a change control process, right? So notice what I'm doing. I take the data I thought I would have that I determined in planning, and then I took the data I received that was in the previous process called direct and manage project work. I was collecting data. Now I'm comparing the planned data versus the actual data, and boom, I'm able to make forecasts. I'm able to analyze that data and determine if there are changes required. If there are changes required, I'm going to make work performance reports. So I'm going to take that data from execution. I've analyzed it now here in controlling, and I'm going to make a short one-page report to summarize it for the change board. And that's how that would work. Well, speaking of so what I'm looking for in the control process, let's give it some names. I'm looking for corrective action, and these would be changes I might make for actual deviations. I have a gap between my planned data and my actual data. But then there's also preventive action, right? So if I think I'm developing a gap, maybe I request a change to incorporate preventive action. So it's corrective, preventive, and of course defect repair. That's scrap, right? Something didn't conform. So I want to consider those terms when I'm talking change controlling and then considering the change process. That change process is done in this integrated change control. And so here is integrated change control. It's a process that reviews, approves, and manages and communicates changes, right? And so here's the rule, the golden rule of changes. If I'm considering a change on scope, I look at scope, but I don't just look at scope. You look at the change of one area, like scope, and its impact on all the other knowledge areas, like risk, like communications, like stakeholders, like procurement, like quality, like its schedule, cost, etc., right? You look at every change based on A, the change itself, say in this case a scope item, and B, its impact on all the other knowledge areas. That's a great project manager. Now this change control process, this integrated change control, you'll have to set up a change control system, CCS. Part of that change control system will have a change control board, and your results, whether they are approved, deferred change, reject change, have to go in a change control log. See how detailed this process is? This is why you want to develop this for any procurement. That was last week's conversation. Any procurement, you want to build in how that change process in the contract would work into your change process. This is, so there's my change control system noted, leading to a change control board and a change control log. Notice if a change is approved, it's going to go back to the process called direct and manage project work to get integrated. It'll go a few other places too, like quality, but primarily direct and manage project work. This is just a slide I built. It's kind of a one-slide summary of the change control process. And you're welcome to pause and review, but it's just a summary, okay? So these are the essentials. As a project manager, philosophically, you want to prevent the change, then identify a potential change, analyze its impact, do a change request, conduct change control, and tell people.